Trading card games always look insanely fun from the outside. The strategy, the combos, the competitive moments, the hype pulls. But when you actually sit down and try to learn one, it feels overwhelming. There are too many cards, too many rules, too many phases, and you are afraid of looking stupid or making mistakes in your first game. So you just never end up picking it up. By the end of this video, you are going to understand Riftbound TCG in a simple, structured way. So you can sit down for your first game in 2026 with confidence instead of confusion. I'm going to break this down into a clear system that removes the intimidation factor and makes everything click. But I will warn you, if you skip one part of this process, you are going to misunderstand the flow of the game, and that's exactly where most beginners get stuck, so make sure you follow each step in order. Okay, let's dive in. Step 1. Understand the win condition, the race to 8 points. What this is? Riftbound isn't about reducing your opponent's life total to 0. It's a race to 8 points. But before we talk about the finish line, you need to understand how you actually earn points. There are 3 ways to score points in Riftbound. First, conquering a battlefield. When you move a unit to a battlefield zone and win the combat there, meaning your opponent has no units left at the battlefield, you conquer it and immediately score 1 point. This is the aggressive path to scoring. Second, holding a battlefield. For example, in this match I conquered both battlefields. Now it is the opponent's turn. If he doesn't manage to take my units out of the battlefield, I score 2 points for holding. As you can see, it is my turn and he managed to take control only of a battlefield, but because I hold the second one, I score a point. This is the defensive, sustained way of scoring in Riftbound. Third, burnout. If your opponent is forced to draw a card from an empty main deck, you immediately score 1 point. This doesn't happen often, but it's a legitimate win condition in longer games. Now, here's the goal. You're racing to reach 8 points before your opponent does. The first player to hit 8 points wins immediately, but there's a catch we'll cover in step 8 about how that final point works. This is the rhythm. Conquer aggressively to grab points fast or hold defensively to score consistently over time. Every decision you make should tie back to scoring points or stopping your opponent from scoring. You are not trying to destroy every card, you are fighting for battlefield control. But just understanding that alone isn't enough. You also need to know, step 2, the zones where everything happens. Riftbound has 9 zones, but 2 matter the most: your base and the battlefield. Your base is where cards sit before they are ready to fight. The battlefield is where combat happens and points are scored. Here's why zone matters. There are some cards that specifically use the words base or battlefield. For example, if you have a fight or flight card in your hand and you plan to use it next turn, just pay attention that this moves a unit from a battlefield to base. Some make confusion, treating this like charm. Anyway, have in mind that cards in your hand, deck and trash don't do anything. You need to understand that zone locations determine what works and when, and what effects take place into the game. Now, before we move into the next part, which is where the game really starts to click, make sure you subscribe if you are playing Riftbound or planning to get started this year, especially if you want to get competitive. Now, let's get to the next step. Step 3. Energy and power. The resource system. Riftbound uses 2 resources, energy and power. Both come from your rune deck, a separate 12-card deck. You exhaust a rune to get 1 energy. You recycle a rune to get 1 power of that color, but it goes to the bottom of your rune deck. Watch how this works. In this phase of the game, it is my turn and I want to start it by activating the spell called Falling Star. It requires 2 runes exhausted and 2 power energy. After I tap those 2, I send 1 to the bottom of the rune and activate my Kaisa legend for the 2nd power energy I need. Your rune pool empties at the end of draw phase and again at the end of your turn. If you plan any moves during opponent's turn, remember to keep some runes up. Now that you know how to pay for cards, let's talk about step 4, the turn structure, the ABCD system. Every turn follows 6 phases, but the first 4 are easy to remember. ABCD. A stands for Awaken. This is when you ready all your cards. B stands for Beginning, Score from Holding, Resolve, Start of Turn effects. C stands for Channel, add 2 runes to your base. And D stands for Draw, draw 1 card. After ABCD, you enter the action phase where you play cards and fight for battlefields. Then you end your turn, temporary effects expire, damage clears, rune pool empties again. Here is an example of a clear ABCD play. First, I awake everything on my board. Then, I add 1 point for holding. Then, I add 2 runes. And lastly, I draw 1 card. Simple as that. It is also easy to remember. You will internalize this after a few games. So now you know the setup, but the real game happens in step 5, the action phase, where you actually play. The action phase is where strategy happens. You can play as many cards as your resources allow. Units, spells, gear. You can move units to battlefields and initiate combat. There's no limit to actions, only your resources and cards. But playing with a structure in mind matters. Watch this situation. It is my turn and I am at 6 points. I need 2 more for the win. To be honest, I have a good hand, so it is easy to get rid of my opponent's units. As you can see, I activate Stupefied because I want to draw a card and see what play I can make. It is not the card I expected, but still, by playing the 1000-tailed Watcher, I managed to get rid of his units on the battlefield, scoring my 7th point. But here's where it gets tricky. Not all actions happen at the same time, and that's because step 6, the chain and timing states, the reaction system. Riftbound uses a chain to resolve spells and abilities. When you play a card, it goes onto the chain. Your opponent can respond with reaction cards. The chain resolves on a system based on last in, first out. For example, watch this showdown. In this phase of a game, it is my opponent's turn. He moves his unit to a battlefield I control, initiating a showdown. As soon as he does that and passes my priority, I activate Void Seeker. But he reacts with another spell, Death Creep, which kills one of his units to give its might to the unit he has on the battlefield. So there is a stack. First, his spell gets resolved, so his unit gets a +2 might, and after that my spell's effect goes 1. But because he is 6 might now, once the combat resolves, my unit dies and his lives. The chain is how you interact with your opponent's plays. Learn when you can respond and when you are locked out. Also, note the type of spells. There are the slow spells. These are the spells you can play only during your turn. For example, in this play, my opponent plays Arise. If you look close, you can see it doesn't have any keyword like action or reaction. The second type of spells are the action spells. These are the spells you can play on your turns or in showdowns. But don't forget, only there is nothing on the stack chain. Also note that the player who initiates a showdown has the right and focus to play an action spell. After that, your opponent can play only reaction spells. He can play an action spell only if the chain is in an open state, and only if he has priority. You can relate to the example with Void Seeker from a few minutes ago. The third type of spells is the reaction spells. You can play those spells as a reaction to everything, no matter what. In other words, you can play them whenever you want. And now that you understand timing, let's talk about the most important part of the game. Step 7. Showdowns and combat. How you actually score. A showdown triggers when a unit enters a battlefield. Both players can play reaction cards. If both players have units there after the showdown window closes, combat happens. Units deal damage equal to their might. If a unit takes damage equal to or greater than its might, is destroyed. If you win combat, you conquer the battlefield and score 1 point immediately. You can relate to the example I showed you earlier, when my opponent won the showdown. So those are the core systems, but there's one more piece you need to understand before your first game. Step 8. The final point rule. How the game actually ends. When you reach 8 points, the way you scored the final point determines if you win immediately. 8 point by hold, you win instantly. 8 point by conquering, you only win if you conquered both battlefields that turn. If not, you draw a card instead. 8 point by card effect, you win instantly. Watch how I ended this game. So, here, it is my turn and I have 7 points. Both battlefields are controlled by my opponent. If he holds them next turn, he wins the game. If I want to win this, I need to conquer both of them. First, I attack with 1000-tailed Watcher Accelerate. I don't score. I draw a card instead, and then I win the game by conquering the second battlefield with Kaisa. Though, because my opponent thinks I am a genius, I couldn't show you exactly as I described here. The idea is I only won this game this turn only because I conquered both battlefields. You can't rush one battlefield and win at 8 points. You need to commit to controlling the entire board if you are going the conquer route, or play it safe and win by hold. Alright, that's the full beginner tutorial. You now understand what is the win condition. You know the zones of the boards and where cards work. You know what are the resources you need to play your cards. You also learned the A, B, C, D turn structure. You know that the cool part happens in the action phase. And more than that, you are confident about the chain and reaction system and the type of spells, how you score and how you end the game. That's Riftbound. You're ready for your first game. If you want deck building guides, advanced strategies or keyword breakdowns, let me know in the comments. And if this helped you, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you on the Rift.